Elena pretends to be the fiancée of a man with amnesia, hoping to use his blank slate as a way to fix her own broken life. But when he begins to remember his past and the wife he left behind, Elena must decide whether to keep up the lie or finally let him go. Can love built on a lie ever be real? Before we continue, have you subscribed yet? Hit that button for more amazing stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Elena stood in the sterile hospital corridor, her fingers trembling as she smoothed the hem of her coat. She wasn't supposed to be here. This was a mistake, a lie built on the ruins of her own desperation. But as the nurse led her down the hall, her heart pounded with a mixture of guilt and exhilaration. She had first seen him in the accident report, a young man found unconscious after a brutal car crash on the edge of the city. No identification, no family, no one to claim him. His name was Adrian, the nurse had said. The police had pieced it together from his phone. Elena didn't know him, not really. But she did know one thing. She needed a way out of the mess she'd created in her own life, and Adrian's blank slate was the perfect escape. She stepped into his room, her breath catching in her throat. He was handsome, even with the bruises and bandages. His dark hair was tousled, his skin pale against the hospital sheets. He looked so vulnerable. "Miss, he's awake," the nurse said softly. Elena nodded. She pressed her lips together and forced a smile. She could do this. "Adrian?" she whispered, stepping closer to his bedside. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment he looked at her with a mix of confusion and fear. Who are you?" he rasped. Elena's heart thudded. She leaned closer, her hand trembling as she reached for his. "It's me," she said. I'm your fiancé." He stared at her, his brow furrowing. "My fiancé?" She nodded, her throat tight. "Yes. Don't you remember? We were supposed to be married soon. You were in an accident, but I'm here now. I'll take care of you." She didn't know where the words were coming from. She didn't know how she could lie so easily. But she could see the relief in his eyes, the desperate need for something, someone to hold on to. He squeezed her hand weakly. I don't remember. I'm sorry." "It's okay," she murmured, tears stinging her eyes. "We'll get through this. Together." For days, Elena wove her lie around him like a cocoon. She visited him every morning, bringing fresh flowers and soft music to fill the sterile silence of the hospital room. She read to him from books she knew he'd never read before, painting memories she'd invented in the quiet of her own mind. At night, she would go home to her cramped apartment, staring at the stacks of unpaid bills and eviction notices piled on the kitchen table. Her real life was a mess, a swirling vortex of debt and broken dreams. But with Adrian, she could pretend. She could be someone else, someone loved. "Do you remember anything yet?" she asked one morning, her voice low and tentative. Adrian looked at her, his dark eyes clouded with frustration. "Just flashes. A feeling, but nothing concrete. It's like trying to hold on to smoke." She took his hand, her thumb brushing over his knuckles. "That's okay, I'm here. I'll help you remember." He closed his eyes and leaned back against the pillows. "Thank you for not giving up on me." She smiled, though her heart twisted with guilt. "I never could." It wasn't all lies. In the quiet moments, she felt something real between them, a warmth in the way he looked at her, a softness in his touch. It was easy to forget that it was all built on a foundation of deceit. She told herself she was doing it for him, too, that he needed her as much as she needed him, that if he could remember anything, maybe it would be her. But every time she saw the confusion in his eyes, every time she caught herself weaving another story, the guilt threatened to swallow her whole. One afternoon, as she sat by his bedside, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're so beautiful," he said softly. Her breath caught in her throat. "Adrian, I feel like I know you. Like I've always known you." She blinked back tears. "Maybe you have." As the weeks passed, Adrian grew stronger. The bruises faded, the bandages came off, and he began to walk again. He smiled more, laughed more, and every time he looked at her, Elena's heart ached with a longing she couldn't name. But with his recovery came something else, fragments of memory, surfacing like ghosts in the night. "I had a house," he said one morning, his brow furrowed. A big house, and a woman. She was there, but I can't see her face. Elena's stomach twisted. Maybe it was me, she offered, her voice too bright. Maybe, he said slowly, but she could see the doubt in his eyes. One night, she sat at home, staring at the engagement ring she'd bought at a pawn shop, turning it over in her fingers. She had planned to show it to him, to cement the lie even further. But now, she couldn't bring herself to do it. She knew this couldn't last. Eventually he would remember. And when he did, what would he think of her? The day everything fell apart began like any other. She arrived at the hospital, a smile on her lips and a basket of fresh fruit in her hands. But the moment she stepped into his room, she knew something was wrong. He was sitting up in bed, his eyes sharp and clear in a way they hadn't been before. "Elena," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. "We need to talk." Her hands trembled. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I remember. Not everything, but enough." Her heart stuttered. What do you remember?" He looked at her, and she saw the truth in his eyes. "I'm married," he said softly. "Her name is Claire. We were separated. I was going to ask for a divorce." The words crashed over her like a wave. She couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know why you did this, why you pretended, but I need to find her. I need to fix things." Tears blurred her vision. "Adrian, He shook his head. "Don't. I don't hate you, but I can't do this. I can't be who you want me to be." Elena stumbled out of the hospital, her chest aching with every breath. She had built a world around a lie, and now it was crumbling around her. She told herself she'd done it because she had no choice, because she needed a way out. But in the end, it didn't matter. She had fallen in love with a man who wasn't hers, and she had to let him go. A week later, she got a call from the hospital. Adrian had been discharged. He was gone. She didn't know if he'd found Claire, if they'd reconciled, but she hoped they had, because he deserved something real, something she couldn't give him. Months passed. Elena tried to move on, taking a job at a small flower shop across town. She kept her head down, her heart tucked away behind walls she didn't know how to tear down. Sometimes she would see a man in a crowd, a flash of dark hair, a familiar profile, and her heart would skip a beat. But it was never him. She told herself it was for the best, that she'd done the right thing in the end. But late at night, when the world was quiet and her thoughts were loud, she still dreamed of him. Then, one rainy evening, the door of the flower shop chimed. She looked up, and her breath caught in her throat. Adrian stood there, water dripping from his hair, a bouquet of wild flowers in his hands. "Adrian," she whispered. He took a step closer, his eyes searching her face. "Claire and it's over. For good this time." She swallowed hard. I didn't think I'd ever see you again." He smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. "I couldn't forget you, Elena, no matter how hard I tried." She hesitated, her hands trembling. "But I lied to you. I used you." He set the flowers on the counter and reached for her hand. "I know, but you also saved me. When I was lost, you were there. And I think maybe I loved you too, even before I remembered everything." Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know if I can believe that." "Then let me show you," he said softly. "Let me try." She took a shaky breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "Okay." They started slow. Coffee dates in the park, long walks by the river, quiet evenings where they talked about everything and nothing. They didn't pretend the past hadn't happened. They didn't hide the scars. Some days were easy, others were harder. But every day they chose to be there, to build something real, one fragile piece at a time. One night, as they watched the city lights twinkle in the distance, Adrian turned to her. "I still don't remember everything," he said, "but I remember enough to know that this us, it's worth fighting for." She smiled through her tears, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Me too." In the end, it wasn't the lie that defined them. It was the choice to move past it, to build something true in the ruins of what had been. And as they stood there, wrapped in the soft glow of the city, Elena realized that sometimes the greatest love stories begin not with perfect memories, but with the courage to start again.